Okay, I would like to introduce myself. I am Felipe. I am from Europe. I live in Ecuador, and I'm 70 years old. I would like to play a little game. I am a world leader. Why do I say that? Not because personally I am anything more than Mr. Nobody, but I am a world leader because we are all just simple citizens. And so this is my voice. It's your voice. It's my way of thinking. 7,000 million people out there. They all have their own ideas. So these are mine. But this voice goes straight to the world leaders. And that is the whole idea. Donald Trump, first of all, with all due respect, because it's pertinent, he's the President of the United States of America. He represents 340 million people. So that, commands a lot of respect to all these people, to him too. But he is Donald Trump. So he's Donald. I'm Felipe, he's Donald. I'm Philip, he's Donald. The due respect goes to the dignity, to the presidency of the United States. And Putin, he's the president of the Russian Federation. So enormous respect also to Russian nation, people, and history. And but what's his name? It escapes me right now. But he's all just, Mr. Putin. I mean, or Putin, whatever. He's just a guy. When they get together after the formalities, they talk to each other this way. Netanyahu and all these leaders, and now the African leaders that are emerging on the world stage every now and so often also, and in Latin America. So we have to respect all this. But at the end of the day, when all the talking and the big formal meetings are over, and they get together with some cocktails and so forth, and they just talk like you and me. And they even drop a little pearl every now and so often. So they're just, girls and boys. I think that is actually where sometimes a lot of that decision making is taken. There are actually a couple of recordings of several presidents of the United States where they didn't realize that their mic was still on, or the other ones were from the Oval Office, from the normal registry of conversations there. It's normal, it's a normal thing, And they go like, what the flip, the sort of visceral verbal expression, or they talk in a straightforward way. Now, you guys, with all the apparatus of the government and all the high-level thinkers that you have there on social, military, economic level, strategic, whatever, all these well-versed persons like myself, you tell me, how can it be possible that we cannot figure out how not to have war? If if you're your weight worth in that very difficult and heavy burden, which is the responsibility of a presidency. You are extremely capable people. We look up to you. Even I look up to you, because we have hope. But we have the same brain as you. In a certain way, we get to a certain point that we ask ourselves, how can it be that all our nations, after the Second World War, which was presumably the mother of all wars to finish all the rest, and we have war, and we have border conflicts, and we have human tragedy, and we have these migrations, and we have all these problems we have. And you guys, that's your job, is make sure that there are no problems. How so have you not foreseen all that and worked on that and use algorithms and artificial intelligence to avoid all these pitfalls? Because we all know that the key to success from a Darwinian point of view is not the strife and the competition of the most adapted, survival of the fittest, the one that, is more befitting. Well, the fittest, I have news for you, is the one that collaborates. So if you have one society which collaborates and is united, they will be stronger than that other society that opposes it, that is dispersed and weak. But what about if you take both societies and you bring them together and you unite them? So when we look at what is going on around the world, it is very, very easy to see that now slowly on there are blocks emerging. United States with Canada and Europe and Australia, New Zealand, and that was at least until recently the way we saw things. And then you have Russia with China and Iraq and whatever there. And then you have a bunch of other ones. And you have the Africans now. They're definitely going for it. Good for them. Should be that way. We should help them. South America should unite and become a powerhouse on their own. They already are. And we should help them. Actually, we shouldn't even help them. All we should do is stop interfering and deal with them as an equal. Win-win situations. But that's another conversation. And so, now for the next 2-3 generations, we are going to have blocks. There's going to be the left and the right, and then the north and the south. And there's going to be, allegiances and alliances, and there's going to be proxy wars and border wars and, commercial wars and Sounds beautiful. I can't wait. But we are smart. We are smart, so we don't have to go that way. And then after some time, after a couple of generations, then after a lot of pain and suffering, and a lot of waste of energy, and a lot of big problems that will have emerged from then on, because of what we're doing, or our negligence, we're going to have more global problems, environmental problems, and so forth. And so, then eventually going to go like, well, yeah, let's go like, we'll make 2 blocks, 2 big alliances. And then there's going to be more war for another 2 generations. And then 100, years from now, 4 generations, someone's going to go and take his cell phone in the Galapagos Islands and sit there, some painter, some artist, some, writer, intellectual, pseudo-intellectual Mr. Nobody. And he's going to go like, hey guys, what about if we all get together? And this is not utopic. It's the easiest thing to do. Because when I listen to all these narratives through the media and whatever, but I never hear the word planetary. We have environmental, and in some places I heard the word environmental stewardship and social stewardship, which is, by the way, a beautiful word. What about a planetary stewardship? Elon, I love you, man. I have to give it to you. You're not perfect, just like me. That's what I like about you. But you're fine with that, too. And you just keep rolling and stumbling, move on. But you want to go and create a biplanetary reality and build that and build up a better world energy-wise and so forth. You have great ideas, tunnels under the cities and the hyperloops and all that stuff. I mean, you are pointing in the right direction. We need more people who think like you. One would say that is big thinking, but no, it is not. That's just normal thinking, right? Like Neil deGrasse says, I'm an objective thinker. Yeah, right, that's the way we should be, right? Being objective. It's the same if I'm going to say, well, I got to cut the grass, but you know what? I'm only going to cut, like 1 acre. Well, you can cut, 500 acres. It still is cutting grass. For the one, you're going to use a big machine, and the other one, you're just going to do it, with a little lawnmower by hand. Get some exercise. It's the same thinking about $2,000 and solve problems, and to think about $20,000 or $20 billion. The same shit. Pardon my French. You see? Slip of the tongue. Anyways, so we should have these big thinkers and dreamers, but more than anything, these people that have the heart in the right place. That's why the dreamers, that are not looking for something for themselves. They're just trying to plant a tree that will produce shadow for the next generation, not for themselves. They will never sit in the shade under that tree, but they still go and plant them because they know, right? And it's a good feeling. So that's us. We have to bring people of more age back into the loop on a high-level decision-making, but not the people who have economical power, but people who have what we call a holistic power, because that's where it's really at. What we need to do is create a planet that is sustainable. So when you look at the economy and we want to create more prosperity, and the economy has to grow, and we need to make more profits, and the companies must grow and get bigger and bigger, and then it's going to become trillion-dollar companies and so forth. If you have organizations that have a lot of power, that's fine, because you need to do big projects. So if it's the state which has all this money to create infrastructures, or it's private, that's something else to talk about. But that's not the issue. The issue is what we do sustainable? Because if I have a company that makes a lot of money, and then I invest that to buy more machinery, and to put another factory and to build more roads, or to build a new canal, that's good, I'm creating more jobs, hallelujah. But really, if you make a lot of money and you buy yourself 5 mansions, and one of them has 274 rooms, like the King Charles, or the Crown, whatever. Like they have a company. There's a company, and one day I was reading it. They own more than 1,000 properties. To what avail? What for? To sit in a gold-plated chariot? Chariot's beautiful. Well, that's ready to go into a museum. Make these mansions into museums with universities, and how much does each individual need maximum to live a sustainable life? What about if achieving success in life becomes that, achieving that level, and then continue to produce, but for the well-being of the world? How much have we ever thought about that? How much is enough? We all know that if you lay in bed, 1 bed's fine. You don't need 2 beds. You only can use 1 mattress. Maybe you can pile them up a few, but you're still only sleeping on that top mattress. How many rooms do you need? How many chairs do you need to sit down? How many swimming pools to swim in? How many airplanes to fly in? How many cars to drive? It's all about sustainability, you see? So, if we would have another 10 planets right behind us, just like planet Earth, with water and oxygen, just like us, and people want to expand, as we have in the past, go for it. In the past, all that was justifiable because the resources were there until we hit the 1800s. And now there's so many of us, and we have this growing economy. It's shooting through the roof everywhere around the planet. But eventually something's going to give. Every time we have to extract a lot of stuff out of the ground to create them in industries, heavy industry, the primary materials which we are going to use to build stuff. And then when we have that stuff, it's got to be transported, it's got to be sold, then it gets sold, and people have it, they use it, it gets old, and then you got to throw it away. Now you need an industry to take care of that. And it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And it creeps up on us. And we just keep at it. And 4 generations down the line, it's not going to look good. And of course we go like, yeah, but I got to live it up now. I got to have a good time. Felipe, whatever happens 100 years down the line, who cares? I mean, I won't be around to see it. And my kids, they can figure it out, I mean, we've done our stuff. And besides that, I'm just me. How do you expect me to make a difference? I mean, I'm just one person. I mean, look at Greta Thunberg. She was kind of cute, and then she kind of got like, she doesn't know how to express herself too well. She's not that great of a communicator. And people started going like, okay, there she goes. Greta, tamper down a little bit, But, yeah, you have the younger generations going there like, what the flick? What's going on? I mean, hey, you guys, right? And besides that, you have all these people that have given their testimonies that a lot of celebrities are giving away their stuff. There are a lot of new celebrities that they live in a very simple way. Highly admirable. And even Elon, you always see him with his T-shirt on. He doesn't care. I mean, it's not about, there are a lot of people not. A lot of people live, Lamborghinis and Maseratis and whatever. And those $300,000, $3 million watches. Come on. Anyone who's really rich and he looks at you and you go like, and you move your hand like that and you go like, when we were younger we used to like, oh, is that a real one? Yeah. Wow. Or we used to throw around the car keys so they could see the brand that we were driving, But just as kids, it was a second-hand car anyway. But, kids, you're 18, 20, whatever. That becomes like kind of cute. And that's great, all that, all that jingle-tingle. And it's being happy. If that makes you happy, wow. But it's not sustainable now. That is the new word in the human equation from now on. Sustainability. Like, is war sustainable? I don't think so. So, what is it? Ivan Putin? It's not, I don't know, no. I like his name. Russian people are wonderful. Yeah. I kind of miss him. You see, now we have this whole thing going on in the Ukraine. Shouldn't have happened. I love Ukrainian people. I was in the Galapagos Islands. I am in the Galapagos Islands, and because I'm an artist, I had a little stand with my art and so forth. And we used to have the Chinese coming to the ranch to see tortoises. And then we had the Ukrainians, and we had the Russians, and the Polish. And it was great, and I would have my guitar, and sometimes I play a little song, and they would sit around and listen to my music and so forth. Just one song, and then they'd go away and so forth. But now they don't come anymore. That's where I got like, how often do you have the opportunity to really deal with, on a day-to-day basis pretty much, on a regular basis with these cultures? And I had some of the guides that would come, and one of them, he studied in Russia. He did his degree there in biology and everything, and spoke perfectly Russian, and he would guide the groups in Russia. And but they also speak English and whatnot. And people from all over the world are nice. Some are different. We normally make that joke, you see. You have the people from a country and that nationality, and they're all nice. And then you have those that live in the capital. And they're also nice, but they're like hyped up. They're tense, tight. Like in New York, New Yorker is like, he's combat ready. Just for parking a car. So, and the same in London, in Brussels, and Paris, Berlin, and so forth. Ich bin ein Berliner, and I live in the capital. And I go like, good for you, man, good for you. So you don't come and live next to me, have more space. And if you come and live next to me, after a short while you will become more mellow, right? And you will start seeing stuff that you couldn't see because there was no time to look or to feel. And so Donald and Putin, and we seem to talk only about those two. Then, well, the European leaders now, they've changed here and there, and you have Ursula and whatnot. And Meloni, I really like her. She is really something. And now you have Kramer or something in England that has changed. I'm sorry, I'm 71. My memory is not that sharp. And I'm not reading the newspaper every day either. So anyways, I mean, all these people, they are so wonderful. And they have different opinions. Like Millet, he says one thing, but Da Silva, he has a different approach. But, both people, they are concerned about their country. And like Claudia Scheinbaum, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And some people, they are more on the right side, and other ones are on the left side. But we all eat with a knife and fork. So the concept of left and right is absolutely preposterous. There is nothing left and right. If you have a left and a right, then ultimately the result of what you end up doing is always going to be center. Or because you come to an agreement between the two parties and you decide, let's go this direction then, let's do this. Or you come to another agreement, you go like, let's start doing this, and then we'll do an evaluation 2 years down the line. If it doesn't work, then we'll go the other direction that you suggest. What about that? Okay? Or you go like, you know what? On even days, I am in charge, and on odd days, you're in charge. It's another way of doing it, Or if not, you fight it out, and you go like, we won the elections, and now we're going to do what I say. And you do that for 1 or 2 periods, and then the opposition wins again, and then they're going to do everything for 4 to 8 years, and then you're going to win again. So after 50, 60 years, that pendulum has been swinging back and forth, and so the horse pulled a little bit to the left for a couple of miles, 8 miles, and then the other horse pulled towards the right for 8 miles, 8 years. So you're still going to end up, you're going to be going like this, but somehow you're still going to be going more or less in one direction or another. And you see, that's a waste of energy, because it really makes everything slow down. But if you sit down and you go like, you know what, this left and right sort of system, that's not doing it. It's not working. It takes too long. There's too much competition. Instead of opposition, what about proposition? And what about if we sit down, all of us, and we go like, okay, this is it. Section per section, what do we want from now, the next 100 years? What is our vision? What is it that we want? And then second, what is it that we do not want? But with the people, with the electors, and you prepare all that, topic by topic, item per item, whatever, and you take a year or 2, and you get that public opinion, and that becomes then a blueprint. It's a long-term vision, but it comes from everybody. It was built by everybody. And then you have the long-term vision of 50 years. The 100-year vision is just, it's a cloud, a blur somewhere. It's the background. 50 years, it's a cloud, somewhere there. 25 years, it's a mountain, because that's one generation. And then 10 years is a strategic plan. That's why elections should be 5 years instead of 4, every 5 years. Some people are going to go like, yeah, but Felipe, this transgenerational voting and planning and whatnot, isn't that a little bit like blah? Yes and no. When you walk through the neighborhood, you look around in the park, you're going to see 4 generations walking around. There's the grandparents, and then there's the parents, and then there's you and me. Whatever, And then you have the kids and the grandchildren. Sometimes it's 5 or 6 generations alive that share the family table at Thanksgiving or Christmas at the same time, the same place. So everything we do is transgenerational, as it is. So wouldn't it be a meaningful thing to do everything transgenerational as a nation? But the first two questions that we have to ask ourselves is, what is it that we want for now, within 100 years? But the more important question is, what is it that we do not want? So what is not sustainable? And then it becomes fun. Because first of all, we're going to have to kind of look around what our people think. And what the people think is going to be pretty much very common. They're going to say, we want to have, a good lifestyle, we want to be happy, good quality of living, we want the kids to be healthy, go to school, a barbecue, a little traveling, healthcare, You know what people need when they stop actually? They will be full of gratitude for anything else beyond that. But if not, they are okay with, and so should we all, it's a provident living. It's a provident living where we provide for our families and where we can live life, not where people are like caught up in the system to such an extent that all they do is like 2 or 3 jobs and they have no time and they will never be able to have the little home and this and that, everything that's happening now. That's not good. Why? Because socially, it's not sustainable either. Harmony doesn't mean that we all have to be the same and we all have to have the same. Once again, someone works really hard or someone's really savvy, good. They deserve whatever they build for themselves. There are other people who said, listen, I don't want anything. Okay. Now they go like, no, I'm good. I know people. They just want to be close to nature and live completely simple life. What do they call that? Minimalistic living. And that's fine, and they're very happy. Right. But after you kind of done first, what do you call that? A probing in your own countries. Then you bring that together, sort of. You have your indicators, you have your numbers. You catch the drift. Doesn't have to be down to the nitty gritty. It's got to be just a probe. Sorry. So then the world leaders get together. Backed by the congresses and everything. And they create this world planetary committee, or the planetary council. You guys like that. The planetary council. What were you guys called? The G5, G7, G20, whatever. GMI. Planetary council. Everybody forms part of that. Like the United Nations, whatever. And then the council is going to, with artificial intelligence and with equations and with algorithms and so forth, they're going to define the 40 top points, that, or levels or boundaries or whatever, fancy words. You can find those. That are required. What are we aiming for? And for example, what we don't want, you could choose maybe the top 8. 8 is a nice number because it represents infinity. So 8 things that cannot be. And so then you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it. It will take planetary decision making. It will take a leap of faith. It will take balls. Male or female balls. Don't matter. It'll take heart. It'll be like, most likely, the most single human act of most importance ever in the history of humankind to have been made. And between all of you representing all of us, you decide. Based on the principle of sustainability. You see, we all want to make more money. We want to have more power. We want our economies. Right now, all this war and this, and it's all about resources. And it's all about the economy. And the tariff war and also. It's about the economy. But look at the economy. Let's go to the United States and go into the shopping malls. No, take Amazon or Alibaba, whatever. Look at all that. Everything that's out there. How much of that is stuff? How much of that is frills? How much of that is chemical? So, one of the problems of our societies is that we live in cities where there's no nature and you're just locked up and people become a little anxious and people don't have anything to look at, walls and cars. So they shop. And, we can't go really hiking and hunting as we used to before. And our lives have changed, and so that sort of compulsion is there to access to something. Before we used to access to something, and then we'd take it home, a nice piece of wood to make a bench with, or we would get something that we could eat or plant or use as a cover or for clothing. Or to mate and reproduce and grow. It was more about that. So, but that same satisfaction now we get when we go and buy something. But everybody, we all know that we get our houses full of stuff, and the stuff is now designed to only last 5 years. And then we get rid of it and we buy more stuff. So stuff turns into junk. And junk turns into an expensive issue, which we have to face and deal with sooner or later. We may not deal with it now, okay, fine. It's like a credit card that you don't take care of. That problem's not going to go away. It's going to get bigger. And here also. Existence on our planet is what we call a social, environmental issue. Everything is social, environmental. You don't have social issues and environmental issues. They are one single thing. So we have a social environmental responsibility, which means that we need to develop a culture, a social environmental culture. So we're going to have a social environmental, culturally responsible community. each and every one of them articulated and locked in to our planetary stewardship. So we should actually all, between all of us, say, listen, you guys start with this first. We are going to commission you as world leaders to concern yourself first with this, with the very big picture, and to create the foundations of all of this, where we all should actually end up with what we need, not what we want. And of course, some people will have very little, and other ones will be rich. But what should the limit of rich be? How much assets could you own as one person to use? And, if not, people are going to have 1,000 little companies and they're going to all be shareholders of the same thing. That's not the way that I'm talking about. No, just that you own personally, that's totally yours. Like the house you live in, the car you drive, the plane you fly. How much can you have as a patrimony? Each person, per person, maximum. We have to put a ceiling on it. How much can you spend? And you can't let it build up. You can't say, well, but the first 10 years of my life I didn't spend anything, so no. There's no wiggling there. You have to do that from inside of your mind. Let's say, for example, a per month income. What would be the media that would be very nice to live with, that you can spend per month? And, watch it. The next month, it will be the same amount. Or per year. For you to be happy. And that we all would agree on. That sounds like okay. That's not bad. We'll be doing good. Like, per person, if you have $10,000 to spend, and then you have your wife or your husband, and then you have the two kids. The two kids, until they get to age 15, would be only $5,000. And then when they're 15, it could be $10,000. Whatever. It sounds like everybody's going to go like, oh my gosh, this guy, he wants to take my money. No. You're still going to have this big company. Elon's still going to have his big companies and the shareholders and all that. Still going to be happening. But those are the companies that own it. But you can only, in a sustainable way, you can only own so much. So these companies, to be certified, means that all the shareholders, they can only consume so much. They make that commitment. And they want to be known for that. And so everybody that supports that company will make that company more powerful, because the company exists in function of the planet. And not in the function of just consumerism. You cannot go to a restaurant and spend $20,000 on a meal. It's fantasy spending. It's ridiculous. You cannot go and buy a bottle of wine, a bottle of whiskey that's $430,000 worth. Such a bottle of wine cannot exist. We all know that. It's just silly. It's just a way of saying, well, you know what? That bottle of wine, actually, that wine or that whiskey you're going to drink, maybe $2,000 worth because it's really good. But it comes in a diamond-studded bottle, designed by Roki Tung and so forth. Yeah. You can have a beautiful painting that's worth, I don't know what, $30,000, $40,000, but have a painting that's worth $50 million, then that painting should belong to a museum so that everybody can go and see it. You can still own it maybe, but it belongs to the museum. Or something like that. We don't need that stuff. Not to appreciate it. We can go to museums and see it. We can put a beautiful copy in our homes. We have another painter painting a copy for us. But all that stuff is not that much money worth. It isn't. We all know that. It's just that it's the hype, It's the thing to do. It's the thing to have. It's like, whoa. You find a coin somewhere that's really rare. And the coin has a little bit of shell on it, so, oh my gosh, this is a marine treasure that was found. So now it's more worth. There's a little bit of calcium on it. Excuse me, but or some coin was misprinted. When they first printed that batch, the first 1,000 coins came out with a little mistake in it. So those ones, they are collectible. Yes. You know what's beautiful is in the morning, the sunrise in your little garden. And it's really kind of fresh, kind of cool. You have, some of the plants and the flowers, and the birds are chirping with a real nice cup of coffee. And knowing that, your wife is waking up and the kids are around, or your mother. Life is all about love, all-embracing love. How many eyes have we closed forever? How many children will ever, ever, ever see their parents or their brothers and sisters again? They never got to know them because they were killed by some TNT, something that blew up somehow. If you're world leaders, that is what's expected of you. To open our eyes, not to close them.